Hello and welcome to Thrive Hive Live Week 3. Let me get all my buttons in order here and we will get kicked off. Looks like we have 2 viewers in LinkedIn land. I will start off slowly as folks join in late, and I look forward to another great conversation. So we'll start with what is Thrive Hive Live, and it is a series of 21 weeks of live sessions that I'm doing to step through 21 steps to launch your business, or maybe it's relaunch or re-energize or whatever it is. And the theory behind it is you are great at your craft, but there's a lot of different things that go into building a business, and some of it may be new to you. So this is an opportunity to get some perspective based on my own experience in building not one but 2 businesses, but also for you to hear from each other, because we all have different strengths, and I'm all about community. Thrive Hive is all about community, where we can share our strengths to help each other do amazing things together. All right. So week 1, we talked about finding your why and boundaries. Like, why do you even want a business, and what boundaries do you need to have in place so that you can enjoy the business and enjoy the process and not become a slave to it? In week 2, we talked about defining your offer. So your offer based on what you're great at doing, what you love doing, and what other people actually need. And this week we're talking about practicing your pitch. But this isn't a sales pitch. This is an elevator pitch. And we'll get more into that. But I'm hoping that you're not getting too nervous, like, oh, I have to have the perfect sales pitch, because we're not there yet. Really, we just need to get comfortable in talking about what it is we do, how it relates to that offer. One, so we can get feedback and make that pitch or our offer even better. But 2, just to get into the practice of talking about our businesses. All right. And next week, we're going to take it to the next step and talk about building a network around you, so that you have a supportive place to go to talk about your stuff. Let's see, in the description or the first comment, I put some tools out there for you. So there is a link to the workbook that I'll be popping up here in just a second, as well as some additional information about Thrive Hive. All right, before I get started, I just want to take a couple minutes to talk about community, because Thrive Hive is really all about community. And when it comes to these live sessions, it's a little bit of a different animal, because I can't see you and I can't hear you, but I still want the community to happen. And that is through the comments. So in the session, please comment liberally. Let us know you're there, what you think of what I'm presenting in the course. Talk to each other, connect with each other. I would love to see everybody connect and kind of grow their community, because when we have community, when we have network, that's when we take away a little bit of the loneliness and sometimes the uncertainty of how to go about building a business. So that's what Thrive Hive is all about. Please do that. And as I see your comments, I will respond to them as I can through the session. And again, please respond to each other. So before I get started, though, whoever's out there, please drop for me in the comments who you are, where you are, and what you're building these days. I'd love to hear from you. Sorry about that. Technical difficulties. So David's back. Yay. Patrick's back. That's good. This is actually today's talk talks a lot of stuff that I've learned from Patrick, and I'm looking forward to him putting his wisdom out there for you all, as well as share some of his resources. And I'm not sure if I'm going to say Insefi right, but has been doing a lot of great things as well. All right. Okay, so we talked about community. You're starting to get some comments out there. Again, please chat with each other as I go through this stuff, and I will respond to the comments as best as I can. And of course, we'll be following up after the session. All right. So again, I did put a comment in the event earlier that has links to all of the things. So it includes the workbook, the register for next week's session. I thought it was like, oh, let's get that stuff ready so people can get registered for it while they're in this one. So take a moment, go click on that now and hit attend if you think you want to come back next week. I'll remind you at the end of the session as well. And then a link for more about Thrive Hive. All right, so with that, are we ready to start talking about our offer, our pitches, our elevator pitches, not our sales pitch? Very, very important. All right, I will add the workbook to the stage, and it's on the wrong slide. That's okay. So, page 3. All right. So getting into this, and I've said it a couple times, I don't know if I can really state this enough, but when I'm talking about a pitch here, it's not a sales pitch. A sales pitch is something that you say and you hope lands a sale. But really, that can close doors, because if that hope doesn't become true, now you've closed the door. What we want is something that opens doors, and that's the elevator pitch. So you may have saw my post last week. I had a clever little elevator opening to opportunity, and that's what we're looking for here. So it's a way to talk about what you do in a way that gets people interested, that helps them understand what you do, how you can support them or the people around them. So a sales pitch is like directly to one person trying to make the sale. No, we're trying to open up the doors, the umbrella of all that we serve, and letting people understand what we do. So one way to think about this, and I think we've all seen different types of presentations on sales pitches, and they all kind of come back to the same thing. If you were to tell your 85-year-old member what you do, could you do it in a couple of sentences in a way that they understand, that makes sense with them, that they could talk to somebody else about it? And that's what we want to get to. So I'm going to just pause for a second here and give you a second to think about your sales pitch as you understand it today. What would you say in 2 to 3 sentences? So you can think about it, you can write about it, you can comment on it. I'm going to try my best to be quiet for a second to give you that opportunity. All right, Wendy's joining from Raleigh, North Carolina. I'll just reiterate too, please share who you are and where you're from and what you're doing in the comments. I would love for you to get to know each other, connect with each other, and I, of course, will be following up with everybody as well. All right, so I gave you a brief minute to think about your elevator pitch as it exists today. And I'm curious if anybody realizes that, now there's maybe an opportunity to refine this. Like this is something I understand that if I can get really clean on, I could really open up some doors. And if anybody has a sales pitch they want to throw into the chat, feel free. By the way, we haven't done the session yet, so chances are we'll give you some feedback on it. So you be willing to take that feedback. And if nobody's ready for that yet, that's quite all right too. All right, I'm going to go on to the next page and talk about a new way to think about how to build your sales pitch. And I borrowed this from Mr. Patrick Seaton, who's in the comments now, from his book. And I will let him plug his book because I'm not going to get the name right. I call it the Crocodile Book. And it's talking about specifically in making sales. And what I did is like, well, these same concepts really apply to an elevator pitch too. And that is, understanding what problem do we solve? What is the interest or what is the benefit in solving that problem? And, is this the moment to solve that? So if we can start to talk about this PIM, as we called it, as we're talking about our pitches for our offers. And again, we're not trying to sell it yet. We're just trying to let people know what we do so that we can open up the door and we can have that conversation. So we're going to dig in a little bit to this PIM idea and how it can support you and your business. And I'll start with, using Beyond Online Books as an example. And is it on this page? Okay. And so, yeah, it is. So with Beyond Online Books, when I first started going to networking events, what do you do? Introduce myself. And it's like, oh, I help solopreneurs with bookkeeping. Didn't really say a lot. And unless there happened to be a solopreneur specifically looking for bookkeeping, probably not going to pique anybody's interest. So instead, I learned to adapt it and think about, what problem am I solving? Why would they be interested in solving it? How can they solve that now? Or why would they want to? And so I was able to refine my bookkeeping pitch to be, I help solopreneurs get out of spreadsheets and bank statements into cost-effective, affordable financial solutions so they can have financial clarity, something along those lines. But it became more about what am I trying to solve? Like, no solopreneur wants to do their books unless they're like me and they are a bookkeeper with spreadsheets and bank statements and trying to put it all together, and we're getting into tax time and pulling it all together. No, it's helping understand what is the problem I solve and what's their interest in doing that. And then moment, like, can we build some urgency around it? So that's helping provide that perspective on what it is I actually do, who I serve, and why they would be interested in me. And so we'll dig a little bit more into that, but that's kind of our high level example of a PIM and the problem, the interest, and the moment. And I saw that Patrick did put the information out there on the crocodile brain can make or break your sale. So check it out. By the way, I haven't dug into it myself, but it looks like a fun read. I really need to do that. I'm taking a shortcut. All right, so now we're going to take a moment to kind of dig into PIM for ourselves. And so with that, I'm going to give you a second to think about, in your business, what is the problem that you solve? And why should your client, your ideal client profile, be interested in solving it now? So I'm going to, again, just try to keep my mouth shut for about 30 seconds to give you a chance to think. And if you put it in the comments, great. If not, you're just thinking about it, that's great. If you downloaded the workbook and you're thinking about it in that context, that's even better. So again, a few seconds on what is the problem that you solve with your offer. All right, and I see Wendy has put a good pitch out there for us, or a pitch. And I noticed that, Patrick, we had this conversation last week as well, and it's one that I'm trying to learn, that the idea that help is overused. What does help even mean? It's what is on the other side of that help? What does life look like after that help? So going back to my example, not that it's perfect by any means, it's just the one that's on the top of my head, of getting solopreneurs out of their spreadsheets and bank statements into bookkeeping solutions that are cost effective and gives them financial clarity. All right, anybody else have a pitch they want to throw out there? I would love to see the exchange continue. But I will also move on to the next page of the workbook. And that's really helping identify the moment. One of the things that becomes tricky when we talk about pitches is, when would somebody care? Because unless it's something on their mind now, it might just kind of go in one ear and outside the other. So how can we build some urgency, or how can we put a moment around what we're offering that piques interest more quickly? And tax season right now. So this is a great time to talk about bookkeeping. In fact, I've had 2 people reach out to me over the weekend that previously had been like, I don't need you, be like, oh, I think I might need you. And we can think about our offers in that context too. There might be cycles in business or cycles in the culture that drives some of this momentum. And so understanding where those cycles are, give an opportunity to maybe kind of latch onto it and take advantage of that as well. So as we look at this, it's, looking at the problem, the interest, and the moment, like, is this the thing to do? Is we can start to put together that pitch. This is the problem I solve, for who, when. This is how I can help you, your neighbor, your mother, your father, your mechanic, like whoever it is. This is the type of person I support, because now that starts to build some clarity. Be like, oh, I see. You're not just a marketing strategist. You're not just a sales coach. You help people achieve this outcome. And that's what it's all about. So typically, folks really lean into understanding outcomes. What's going to change for myself if I hire you? or my sister if they hire you? And is that a change that they're interested in? So we're trying to make that real crystal clear through this process. All right. So with that, pretty quick run through of using PIM to get to the pitch. But what I hope you come away with is understanding, identifying the problem that you solve, who you solve it for, and what it looks like on the other side to pique that interest or to understand what interest is out there and to take advantage of the moment. That's where we're really headed with this. And I see we're continuing to practice in the comments. So I love it. I love it. I love it. All right. But I'm going to move on to page 7 now. So hopefully you have a pretty good idea. And I'd like that you're working on this. So, but before we'll move on to page 7 and talk about, it's going to evolve. So this is something I learned the hard way. I'll be honest about how Beyond the Line book started. And that was, I took about, 8-12 weeks and sat in a vacuum at my computer with a lot of ChatGPT, developed an offer, developed a web page, started doing all of these things, and then hit the networking circuit and went, buy my bookkeeping. And guess what? Wasn't very effective. I learned a couple things through that process. One is it's not about what I do, it's about how I help others. And once I understood that, I became passionate about paying that forward. So that's part of why, these Thrive Hive sessions came about. It's like, what did I learn that I can help another solopreneur maybe avoid? Because the truth is, when you launch a business, you could be 3 to 5 months from earning revenue on that offer by the time you start getting traction on it. And so the earlier you can talk about your offer and what you do, even if it's going to evolve, and by the way, it will evolve, the sooner you get to revenue. And that's what we're trying to get to here. All right. So with that, just reminding you that your offer is going to evolve. Mine did. Mine started with, I do bookkeeping by the hour, to I have tiered packages, to I get solopreneurs out of spreadsheets and bank statements and into bookkeeping solutions, and some real tangible specifics of what that looks like and what they get on the other side. So yes, partner, I love that. But you need to practice. Like, that didn't happen because I just woke up and went, oh, wait a minute, I'm doing this all wrong. It was because I connected with other people. I paid attention to what was happening in the room. I was understanding where I was connecting with folks and where I wasn't. And at the same time, I was doing some market research as well. I'm involved in a lot of different, especially Facebook groups, because they're very active with other bookkeepers, and learning how do they position themselves? How do they do pricing? And just really kept my mind open to the possibilities, learning from potential clients, learning from people in my network, learning from others that do the same work, and really taking that in to see, where do I need to shore things up in order to deliver this? Now, in this session, I'm talking a lot about my bookkeeping offer, which is still out there. But if you were here for week 1, you'll know when I started looking at about my why, I'm really passionate about helping solopreneurs get the resources and information they need so they can build with confidence. Again, that first 8 to 12 weeks that I was doing this, there wasn't a lot of confidence other than what ChatGPT gave me, which, by the way, is a great cheerleader and probably overconfidence. And so really building these resources so that if you're just starting out and maybe you're a nutrition counselor, like, okay, you're great at nutrition, but let's give you some additional information so you can build the rest of your business with support and confidence. And that's what we're all about. And so that's why I'm really harping on this. Your offer is going to evolve. And even if you have an offer that's working great now, you might find it's going to evolve down the road. In fact, this weekend, I was at a picnic with another entrepreneur, and she was talking about how after 13 years, I've realized that I need to change my messaging. I've been talking about marketing, and marketing is what I love. Messaging is what I love. And so she's actively redoing all of her offers and all of her assets now to reflect messaging. And so it doesn't matter where you are in your career, this evolution can happen at any time for any reason. And it may be kind of a loose comparison, but maybe if Sears had evolved a little more quickly, or Blockbuster had evolved a little bit more quickly, they'd still be around. So evolving is good because it keeps us current with the times and keeps our business relevant with the time. All right. So again, you're going to get that feedback by talking about your business. And at this stage, it's an elevator pitch. Probably not doing a lot of selling yet. Now, there may be cases where you run across somebody that is looking for what you offer, and that becomes the exception. But really, it's about building that network, because it's through having referral partners, for people that understand what you do, can make connections for you, can give you feedback. That's where you're going to get more momentum. That's where I have seen the most momentum. When I stopped just pushing blog articles and started connecting with real people, that's when my business grew. That's when we started to blossom. All right, I'm going to do a quick plug here. So Thrive Hive is a community that I offer where we get together on a regular basis and talk about our businesses and support each other in building them. We talk about the 21 steps, and we have now was one session a month. We're going to make it 3 sessions a month, or we can jump in and talk about things. A recent buzz session, we talked about what do you do when somebody wants to join on in your affiliate program, but not a great fit. Or I've been doing a lot of networking, not getting a lot of use out of it. Like, how can we do better? And so it's really an opportunity to just really dig into those things that are challenging us in our business and to bounce it off other business owners who are experiencing or have experienced the same thing. All right, moving ahead though, enough about that. All right, so I want to think about, like, where can you start to get feedback? So again, going through this super quick, coming up with a pitch that's focused on problem, interest, and moment that is helping demonstrate the outcomes or what the results of what we do is for these people that buy our service, that we have to practice. And so really want to think about, where can we practice this? And one thing, and I said this last week, I'll say it again this week, is don't be too shy about reaching out to the people that are close to you, your friends, your family. They want to support you in this endeavor. They don't want to see you fail. And so saying, hey, can I run this by you? Can I practice this with you? Give them an opportunity to hear what you're up to. They're probably curious anyways. They might know people that are a great fit, and you can get your feedback early on. So, starting with those close friends and families, easy way to get started. And then, slowly branching out. Now, next week, we are going to talk about building out your network more. So I'm not going to dig too deep here, but I'm kind of curious now that you have some idea of your pitch, and I see them happening in the comments here. And thank you, Patrick, for moderating this again. I'd love to see in the comment, maybe an idea outside of the box, or not out of the box, but maybe pretty obvious on where can you practice your pitch? Who might be interested in the elevator pitch to understand what it is that you're offering with your brand new or even long time business? All right. So we talked a lot about, like, who to practice to, but also how to capture that feedback or how to understand what's happening. And so I do recommend, like, following the train of thoughts. Maybe it's logging what you're seeing, or using an AI tool to say, like, I've heard this feedback, how can I refine it? Because practicing is number one, but getting that feedback and utilizing it in a meaningful way is two. And so, definitely think about, how can I capture that information? How can I use it? How can I grow from it? Patrick's, we're thinking about where our peeps hang out with family. And so practice, get the feedback, collate the feedback in whatever way makes sense to you, and then start to think about, okay, so is this the offer I want to hang my hat on? Do I need to refine how I pitch it to make it more meaningful? Or do I need to maybe evolve my offer just a little bit so it can help more people with their problems, their interest in this moment? All right, so I'm going to talk just a moment about the long game. And I touched on this a minute ago, but we'll dig in a little bit deeper. And I want to make sure that if folks are just now starting your business, that you understand something that I didn't quite early on, and that is it is a long game. So by getting really great at this elevator pitch now and going to networking events that we'll talk more about next week, and sharing with others, it's really planting a seed because the seeds of sales can be slow to grow. I heard something pretty early on in launching my business that at first was disheartening, but then super helpful. And it was somebody that I had met on a networking event, and we had a one on one. And she was pretty honest with me and said, you know what? I didn't get my first client for 5 months. And I was about 3 months in at that point. And I'm like, oh, I'm not behind. This is normal. And so, really want to reinforce this idea of talking to a lot of people, getting some clarity, being open to evolve, because again, we want to get you to meaningful revenue faster. And it's by having those conversations and being ready to evolve and having some patience, but also just broadening that network, which is why next week we're talking about networking more. And so the point I want to make today is that you're not going to take this pitch and go to your neighbor tomorrow and make a sale. Highly unlikely. It could happen. Again, you could magically run across the person that's been looking for what you offer, and that is something that can happen. And I think I'll take a step back because I know I still get pitches all this time, especially LinkedIn DMs or email and that kind of thing. And these people are using kind of like, mass promo, hoping that they find those unicorns that might be looking for what they're offering. So if you were to use a robo DM to send something to all of your LinkedIn connections, one person out there, might actually be looking for that. But really where it happens with sales is when people know, like, and trust you. And as you start getting into the halls of these, business, entrepreneurs, you'll hear that over and over again: know, like, and trust. And so by developing our elevator pitches now and connecting with other folks and, practicing, evolving, making sure what we offer is solving real problems, that helps people get to know, like, and trust you. And that's where the real sales are going to come from. It's not going to come from blasting this ad out there to 1,000 people. If you think about all the blasts you've gotten and how many of those you've actually engaged in, that gives you a sense of why that process maybe doesn't work for most of us. But coming up through this PIM process of developing our offer and then talking about it and building our network, that's what's going to get us to revenue sooner, but meaningful revenue. But it's still a long game. I just want to encourage you to have patience and faith in the process, but building out your network and surrounding yourself with meaningful, well-intentioned, smart people who have been there, have made the mistakes, are making the mistakes, and leaning in, that's going to help you get to the other side in a meaningful way with more support, more certainty, more optimism, and a lot less of the icky stuff. We'll just put it that way. All right. So long game. Sorry to tell you this, but I'd rather you know now. And I'll just briefly say, I've often heard, first year in business, you're probably going to lose money. Second year, you're going to break even or make a little. Third year is where things really take off. And, that isn't how it works for everybody. Some people may get to meaningful revenue sooner, and I hope each one of you does. I just want you to know if that's not the case, you're not doing anything wrong. It's normal. And so don't be too discouraged. Keep on keeping on. It's only when we give up that we actually have failed at the thing. So keep on trying for as long as you can. All right. So now that we understand the long game, and I've talked a lot about the pitches and the practicing and all of those things. So now I'm curious on what are you going to commit to over the next week? So what can you do to refine, practice, get feedback, and evolve your pitch? So I will try my 30-second silent thing, always easier said than done, and we'll see what folks come up with. All right. So as you continue to think about that, I'm going to share a conversation that I actually just had about an hour ago. And I've been thinking about ways to kind of broaden the outreach of Thrive Hive. And there's a couple ideas on my mind. But then I was talking to somebody in my network, and they were suggesting that for their own business, they're going to start going after people who are leaving corporate jobs because of layoffs. Like the layoffs are going to be even greater this year, right? And I'm like, oh my gosh, I can be doing that too. And so that's just an example of how, being open about what we offer and being open to understanding what others need and what opportunities are out there can bring us a great opportunity to expand where we go to. And so while I had been focused on, who are the coaches that support people that might be able to use Thrive Hive, now I can start to think about who are the kind of the HR consultants out there, or the career coaches, the resume coaches that are meeting the people that are maybe considering building their own business, and how can I collaborate or partner with them to utilize that. So I bring that up just as an example of why talking about what we do in a meaningful way in a conversation is so helpful, because maybe it gets us a referral, maybe it gets us an idea, maybe it gets us some clarity, maybe it helps us evolve. But if we're just stuck between me and ChatGPT, it's probably going to be a little narrow focus out there. All right. So in the workbook, showing it here, there are some resources I wanted to make sure you were aware of. So CIBN is a networking group that I'm involved in. In fact, I think I've met some of the people online here through there. And this is a group that I found to be a great way to build community. So they have several different networking events every week. The people that run it are very sincere in wanting to help you grow, and they're very well run to make sure everybody has a voice at the table. Always get a chance to practice your pitch, plus put it in the chat so people can save it and get back to you later. And so that's one way that you can kind of get some practice. And I will say their events are always free. They do have membership options starting at $27 a month. But even if you don't buy a membership, their events are always free and you can check them out. The other thing I wanted to throw out there as a way to practice is Alignable Smart Connects. So Alignable is a totally different platform than LinkedIn. It's meant to really foster local business connections, but they do this thing called Smart Connects. I call it speed dating, where they just pair people up. They do these breakouts for 5 to 7 minutes, pairing people up. And I love that because, believe it or not, I'm an introvert. And if I'm in a room with 20 people and everybody's talking, I'm probably not going to say much. But if I can get one-on-one with somebody, then I can listen to what they have to offer or what their challenges are. I can offer solutions that help build the know, like, and trust. And I can cater my message, my PIM, to where they're at. If it's something that they may be interested in pursuing, or if it's even to pique their interest in becoming a referral partner. And so the 5 to 7 minutes doesn't answer all of that questions, but it helps me to identify who can I schedule time with to follow up, because this sounds like a great opportunity. And then, of course, your local chambers and that type of thing. So again, we're going to talk a lot more about networking next week, but I wanted to plant that seed today. And then we've talked a lot about PIM. I did make sure Patrick knew that I was putting him on kind of on the pedestal this week. And we did want to make sure that you had access both to the book, which he shared earlier, but then there's also, I use Ask Alex, which is his AI tool that helps craft messaging in a way that people receive it with the intent that it's meant by, and they don't get triggered and be like, too salesy. So it helps keep me away from the salesy conversation. So those resources are in the book, in the chat, and I think that's it. So I will pause for just a second. I did want to do one more plug for Thrive Hive itself. So if you're interested in joining a community 45 days free, no credit card, no anything. Just pop in, check out a few of our events, check out the community, the courses that are available. And if you want to stick around and build community with us, we'd love to have you. If you're like, not for me, that is just fine too. So did want to offer that as well. I don't think I'll put a link because it's going to work. Add a comment. There we go. So that random link I just threw into the comments, that is a link to try out Thrive Hive for 45 days, no cost. And with that, I'll wait about 45 seconds because there is a lag between when I speak and your comment shows up. So I'll wait for the lag. And if that's it, we'll close out and call it another great Thrive Hive Live. So thank you all for participating and your comments. I love having you, and I look forward to doing this again next week with you when we talk more about building your network.